Welcome to the Esports Advisors. It's our brand new esports gambling show highlighting this time around the Call of Duty League Season 2, which is just about to kick off. If you're new to the Center Ring, we are typically an esports podcast, but all the time we don't get to discuss what we want on the show. So we decided to do this little side piece on our YouTube channel. Hope you enjoy. Now to kind of give the ground rules, okay, so if you don't listen to the podcast, you might not know the rules. We are going to give our top 5 picks of the upcoming weekend. So we already went through, picked up our 5 matches for the weekend. We are going to give our winners. And then at the end, we are going to select through a random number generator what matches we get. And we'll have an ongoing season total to see who has to do an on-show bet payoff at the end of the season. So it's pretty straightforward. Anuj, let's get right into it. Starting in on Thursday, first match of the event, really, first match of the season. The brand new LA Thieves, aka 100 Thieves, versus Minnesota Rocker. Minnesota at a -1.5.
Also, the brand new Minnesota Rocker.
Yes. As far as
Whole
roster.
new squad.
Whole new squad, so that's kind of interesting here. Not a lot to go off of last year. From what I understand, LA Thieves is playing in Dallas, so you have no excuses this time around. Last year it was blaming the lag and how can we possibly compete in LA on West Coast servers, yet strangely they also performed pretty decently on in the champs, so I'm not really sure what that was about. I'll go first here. I think all that was an excuse. LA Thieves is still the sucky optic what last year was, minus a player or two. I have faith in the new Minnesota roster. Give me Minnesota -1.5.
I'm right there with you. I'm feeling good about this Minnesota squad. Like I like the additions to the team. Like I think Attach was a great pickup for him. Priesta coming from a championship caliber squad from the Atlanta FaZe roster. Major Maniac also coming over. So there's some camaraderie coming over from Atlanta FaZe, and hopefully that carries over into this new look Minnesota. I'm also gonna take Minnesota -1.5 on this to cover this opening weekend line.
Nothing to concern yourself with on Friday. So jumping over to Saturday, we have Florida Mutineers versus Toronto Ultra. Florida, again, -1.5. Florida had a decent year last year. So did Toronto. They both kind of had Toronto kind of peaked at the end. Florida, not so much. I'll let you go first on this one.
Yeah, I mean, Florida had a really consistent year last year, right? I think they won the most championship weekends that they had. I think they took 3 titles. Everybody else that was near them were at 2. So they were really consistent throughout the year. I thought they faltered a little bit going into Champs weekend, and I still don't know if it was a little bit of a fraud that we saw last year, or is that going to carry over? And for that reason, like I think Toronto is a young and exciting team, right? Like Method's another year under his belt. Cammy was stellar as a new player for him last year, and I think that momentum carries over. Like I think the youth and energy of that team will ride them to at least cover the +1.5.
I agree. I was actually just about to say, I think Minnesota wins, but Toronto covers. I think Toronto takes it. In fact, I think they take it to a map 5. So if you're an over man, you can bet the over as well. I think this goes to a map 5. Toronto covers, but in the end, Florida will come out victorious. So give me Toronto covering at +1.5. So again, just copying each other here. No, that's okay. That is okay.
Might not be the worst to even take them on the money line, honestly, because I do think they have a good chance of winning this matchup. I think this spread is heavily dictated off of last year's results. Toronto, to me, ended strong. Florida ended weak, and that may even carry over into this first matchup.
Next on the docket, we are still keeping it with Saturday. New York Subliners +1.5 versus LA Thieves. Obviously, -1.5. I think what people are getting confused with starting off, Anuj, is LA Thieves. They're getting blinded by the flashy lights. They see that it's 100 Thieves. They see it's Nade shot. They're getting all excited. It's a new team, but like I said before, you got a new jersey on, but it's still the same sucky team. I'm not buying into the LA Thieves hype like so many other people have. Sure, they've added I think J Cap as coach and things like that, Temp being the new guy. I don't see, again, we've learned the online last year, that was just excuses because you performed well during champs. So the online was just an excuse. Now it's still online, but you're in Dallas, so we'll see if that translates to anything different. But until I see that, I'm going to go with New York covering the spread yet again. I said it on our preview on the Big Boy podcast. I'm a fan of this New York team, despite having some unpredicted roster changes, right? Weren't necessarily planned. Still a fan of Mac. Love the pickup on Clay. I'm going to go with New York covering the spread.
We're gonna have one a little different here finally. I, I'm gonna roll. Man, you make it hard when you start saying all this shit about the Thieves lineup, but I do think that lineup has some talent. I think new game does mean something. We've seen bigger, drastic changes. It's not like they were the worst in the league. They just kind of hung around in that bottom half and then showed up a little bit more at champs. I think they covered this line of a -1.5 here because I'm a little unsold on the subliners. I don't think this is the roster that Clayster 100% signed up to be with. I don't even know, you know, if Attach leaving was part of that initial plan, but then Zuma, obviously with a hand injury, right before the season starts, is quite killer. Now they pick up a veteran in Asim that can step in and play and did well on Minnesota the first half of the year, but I want to see what this roster is made of. And although I have questions about LA Thieves rosters, I think I have a couple of more questions about the subliners. It's a little bit of an unconfidence pick here. This is definitely not a lock of the week type pick for me. But I'm going to go with LA Thieves in the -1.5 here.
Spoiler alert, I think out of all of our picks, this is the one that could go either way.
Yeah,
This
I
is
think so.
There's more question marks with both these rosters. Both these teams have made enough changes throughout the year to where your question again, LA Thieves, you just don't know how much that momentum's going to carry it, right? Will and maybe I would I'm sticking with my pick for Minnesota, but that is the first game under the new banner. And maybe they have new team strength. Like the hype and momentum would carry them through that first game. Think it would wear off by Saturday. I'm sticking. I'm
If
sticking.
if
I'm
the
sticking with my
Thieves
pick.
lose on Thursday, I'm going to feel pretty nervous about my Saturday pick because I know that team can tilt real quick. We
Oh,
saw it
I
all
mean,
last
yeah, we
year.
saw it last
All
year.
it takes is one map, and Slasher will be on a tweet storm midway through the game. Instead of tweeting into girls' DMs, you'll be tweeting out to all of us about how shit of a game this is. So there is a good chance that if they lose Thursday, I'm feeling very unconfident about my Saturday pick. But if they win Thursday, the banner means something. Like there is some pride attached to this. Nade shot jumping in, getting them out of the optic hellhole that they were in under the Immortals banner last year. So fresh start, new look team. I'm going to give them some love here and see if they take that dub on Saturday.
First matchup for Sunday, we have Dallas Empire, former champions, defending champions, I should really say, -1.5 against Minnesota Rocker. Dallas is my pick to repeat. I think they're going to go back to back, and I think they're going to start off the season 1-0. I think this is an easy. Well, I guess they played before this, but you get what I'm saying. I think they're going to cover the spread. I think they're going to dominate Minnesota.
Yeah, last year they started off rough, right? It wasn't a great start for Dallas at the beginning of the year. I think this year is a little bit different in the sense that they now have the belt. They're walking in heads holding high, knowing that they won it last year, and that makes a huge difference. I'm going to also take Dallas minus the 1.5 here. I think they should be able to cover this. I also wouldn't be surprised if this goes the distance though, and really pushes 5 maps because I have whatever reason, maybe it's a blind faith, but I do think this Minnesota squad is going to be good, and so It's going to be a tough matchup, but I'm going to take Dallas to cover the -1.5.
Dallas also has an exceptionally easier start this year. They were kind of last year. They did the storyline bit with them where they gave them Optic, or I guess Chicago and Atlanta to start off.
And
So
that was on land with 2 rookies and,
yeah,
just a very different situation.
a
Like I
little
said,
bit more
this year they're
forgiving
walking in with
this time with Seattle and Minnesota. So give me Dallas. You said Dallas, correct?
yep,
To go 1.5.
yeah, 1.5.
Okay. And last but not least, on Sunday, it's the marquee matchup of the weekend. Atlanta FaZe versus the brand new looking Chicago Optic. Chicago ditching the worst branding in all of esports, let alone the CDL. This is a tough one for me. Because we talk about 100 Thieves and the hype and the riding the wave of the new look. I mean, God, the feelings that are going through Optic's brains and just those players and feeling good about having the green wall behind them. But that being said, Anuj, I wasn't a believer last year. I'm not a believer this year with Chicago. I think they are mental midgets. Give me Atlanta. I think Atlanta takes the first map, and from there, it's all downhill for Chicago.
So you think Atlanta just steamrolls this?
I
Would you take the
think,
under on
yes,
this?
I think this is a overhyped game, and I think they steamroll them. I'll give Chicago
Yeah.
one map, but that's it.
Okay. I'm gonna play a little. I'm just gonna play against the odds here because I do think Atlanta is obviously the better team, but I think Chicago comes to play day one. I think playing under the Optic banner. If this was on LAN, I would say surefire Optic covers the 1.5. But I do think this has 5 map potential. Um, both teams are going to be ready to play at the beginning of the season. Both of these teams are stacked with veterans or people that are just either veterans or they're badass, one or the other. And I think they're both going to be prepared. So I think we get a good match out of this. I don't think this is a blowout. I'm going to go with Chicago covering the 1.5. I do think Atlanta pulls away with the victory, but it'll be close.
So there you have it. Those are all of our picks going into the weekend. Stage 1, week 1 begins February 11th. Now, before we go, let's figure out what matches count towards our ongoing total. Let me just pull up the handy-dandy random number generator, Anuj. Now, so the way this works, we have the 4 matches assigned 1, 2, 3, 4. Atlanta, Chicago is going to be the daily double. That is worth ×2. So if we get that right, it's worth 2 points. That's how that works. Just so happened to be I picked Atlanta, Anuj picked Optic. That was not staged. So we were supposed to decide beforehand who picked first, but I goofed. So, but that's okay.
That's right. I forgive you. At
Were
least we
you
went
going to
opposite
go
ways there.
Chicago no matter what? Was Chicago
Uh,
covering for you no matter what?
Yeah, I feel good about them covering. I really think that's a toss-up match, though. I don't think that's a blowout one way or the other. So I feel comfortable with the +1.5 here, with the odds of it being a closer game rather than a runaway.
So there you have it. Week 1, stage 1. We will be back, though, for stage 1, week 2 next week as well to give our picks and ongoing total. So until then, take it easy. We'll see you next time.